Jordan, you could kick it off, and we'll just dive right into Master Tour.
Sorry, I was muted there. Cool. So like Chad said, kind of industry standard, just a way to keep, or pretty much the standard way to keep track of all the information that you have coming in from your advances for each show. So you know what's going on in each city you go to, and your crew and management, whoever you guys deem necessary, will have access to this as well. Super important for them so they know where the artist is at all times. Saves them from texting you, asking you where you guys staying, what time you fly, what's going on with this, that. Check Master Tour is probably every tour manager's favorite line. So we're gonna, with that being said, let me mute myself here and then share the screen. Great. So I'm gonna go into just from the beginning. This is we'll get to this in a second. Wow, this is weird. Here we go. So I'm gonna get into it from the beginning, just creating an organization of Master Tour and how you'll start to input your dates and your venues and all that good information and what kind of information you want to put in as well. So you click up here in the upper left and you can see where you said add an organization. So going off our previous examples, we'll use Little Cotton and the Frosted Flakes. And I'm using type, yep, music there. And then you can add logos as well. I'm not going to go and add the logos right now. I guess I could add one. I'll just put the Wasted one in here for the primary. So it'll work. Cool. Go. And then you can organize the name of the tour. So let's say it's Summer 2020 headline, which would be canceled, of course. And we'll put those dates. You can put the range of the dates. So let's say it's from June 10th till July 23rd. So you want to put all the dates in there, including your rehearsal dates and any travel dates as well. So you have the full scope of the entire time that you're on the tour. And then you can go, it'll let you go through each day that you have within that range and organize it as a show day, a day off, or a travel day. And this will help you just categorize the days. And when it's a show day, it'll ask you for the venue. So let's say we're playing like a House of Blues run. So let's say it starts in Seattle at like the Neptune Theater. So you'll type it in and it'll automatically populate that for you, whether it's from Google or from a previous Master Tour entry. Everything's kind of saved within a cloud. And so it all is localized here. And now you can add it to your date. It automatically populates it with the address. I would always double check this because there are times where it could be slightly inaccurate. So it never hurts to just do a Google search and make sure that the addresses line up so that you're not sending anybody to the wrong place, because that is very bad. So then you can go to the next, then you keep going. So we'll skip that for now because that's not really what we need to go into. So now we get to your dashboard here. Now this is an empty dashboard. As you can see, it's going to have your schedule. It has notes, the local time in the city. And then on the local map, it has the venue as well as your hotel, which I'm going to show you a completed dashboard here in a second so you can see what everything looks like. But just to get your bearings here, we'll keep it blank. Key contacts automatically populate from the cloud and from the Master Tour previous entries. So I have used the Neptune Theater before, so it has the DOS contact in there that I've already used. I don't like to put it in the key contacts anymore. I'm a bigger fan of putting it up in the notes section because most of the people are going to be on their phones when they're looking at this, and then they have in the notes section they can just click the phone number, whereas in the key contacts it's a little more difficult, a little more digging to get to it. It's not really it's user friendly in the mobile version, but the desktop version is a little more expansive. So always kind of be mindful of that and just know what it looks like on everyone's phone and know that pretty much everybody's going to be on that version. On your right-hand side here, you have all the dates that you'll have for the venues. So the first one you can see, show day, it's in Seattle, that's up there. And then on your left-hand side, you can go and get into all the specifics for each of those things. So now for the sake of going through something that's a little more complete, I will switch over here to, let's go to Bozzy, and we'll do the Cosmic Tour. So this actually will work fine. Let's see, this works fine. So as you can see, we got our full schedule over here, and I'm not going to dive in too much as to what any of this, time is or any of this means, because we're going to go through each example of the day sheets and kind of break each one down a little further. So I won't dig too much into that. But this is your schedule. And so you click schedule here or over here, and then you can create each item within it. So 8 a.m. arrive in Chicago. If I double click this, I've obviously entered this all previously, but you can go ahead and enter all these times here. You can enter the visibility of it. So you have different users on here that have access to it. As I mentioned, I'll show you how to add those, but you can set the visibility so only certain people can see it. You can put them in groups, so only maybe A party sees something or only B party sees something. I haven't done a lot of that. I just kind of, because, you know, mainly the crews that I'm working with are only A and B party, and we're allowed to share that information. Some of those bigger tours, they're going to have, you know, 100 people in the crew. They're not going to, when you're on the Justin Timberlake tour, I'm not going to know where Justin Timberlake is because I have nothing to do with Justin Timberlake, and those movements are more secretive. So you can organize it that way if needed. You can obviously do it for periods of time, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., load in. So this is all great information to have for your crew, so they always know where they need to be when they need to be there. And you can also be, you know, specific, as specific as you want. You can add details, any kind of notes as far as maybe the driver's information, the type of the car, anything else that you think would be useful for your team to have, I would put in there. So going back to the dashboard, so some of the day notes here, I think Levi was talking about this yesterday when we were planning this, having kind of like a template that you use to put in the notes section of Master Tour, of like maybe the 5 bullet points that you want to make sure everybody sees right off the bat. So right here, you can see, you know, I did parking, dressing rooms, Wi-Fi, catering. Those are typically things that people are going to be concerned with. Initially, the parking is in there because the driver will be on there, and if you can have that information in there, especially a link to a map like that, it's going to save you a lot of questions because you can just go look in there, click it, lock it down, he's good to go. Dressing rooms are great just for your own reference as well as your crews. House of Blues, for example, in Chicago, we had 4, so we knew that everyone would have space, showers, bathrooms, everyone could plan accordingly. Wi-Fi saves you everyone asking you that question. Hint, that's the Live Nation password everywhere. Catering, everyone wants to know what they're eating. Catering is important for your entire team. As Cotton's mentioned in previous episodes, House of Blues has in-house meals, questionable up as he would say, but some would find delicious. That's all important. And then a little note here is just something that for your entire crew. So this was the last show of the tour. So we put a note in here to make sure everyone has everything off the bus. This is a good section to put anything like that in there so that, you know, nobody can say they didn't see it. It's pretty much your crew's responsibility to make sure they're checking this. So you get your local map down here. Like I mentioned, the hotel and the venue, it shows both those points. If you click tour map, it'll actually take you to Google Maps and show you the distance there. So you see directions as well. You have the hotel information as well in here so that everyone knows where they're staying. If you have an A and a B party hotel, you can still do that, and you can put hotel notes as well, and then just put that it's A party at this hotel, B party at this hotel. So that's great. Where are we at here? Let's see. So one thing that's really, really good, a couple things that are really, really good here. So travel, I don't have any travel here. Let me go over something I'll touch on travel in a second. Let's go to guest list first, see if we have anything here. Yeah, okay. So guest list, this is a really good way. I know I showed you guys, last week that guest list template that I like to use. And that's really helpful if you have like a production assistant or somebody that you can have go through and do all that stuff. But it's honestly really simple as well to do guest list in Master Tour here. And everyone can have access to this. And when you go and add users, you can define who has access to editing it and whatnot. But everyone on the team can go in here and enter in the information that they need as far as first and last name, how many tickets they need, what access they need, and all that different stuff. And then you as a tour manager have the ability to go in there and approve these numbers. And you can also export a guest list from Master Tour as well and just give that to the box office. So last week's template's great, and that's an option. But if you're using Master Tour, I highly recommend having everyone enter their stuff in here and then you going in and approving it, just making sure that everyone knows it's got to be in there by a certain time. So, you know, as you can see here, some of these things are requested by this. For example, you know, the record label needed something. Chad clearly had a lot of friends in town this night. We were in Chicago. And it's a really useful tool just to be able to organize everything. It organizes it by first and last name. It's super helpful stuff. And at the bottom here, it tallies everything for you. So, you can enter like the number of tickets you have for that night, see where you're at in the count. It's good information, and we like to use that a lot for the guest list. We don't get it too much into accounting here. We don't touch this at all, actually. I apparently don't have access to permission on this page. I think that Chad actually might be the head of this organization on Master Tour, but attachments are great if you need to put set lists in there, if you need to put parking maps, or if you need to put any kind of scheduling, any kind of notes, anything at all that you want to put in there. I use that for festivals a lot because they'll give you the maps of the festival. They'll give you a whole lot of information for festivals. And when you're doing a bunch of them in a summer or something like that, it's great to have that information there to pull it up, whether it's car rental information or your confirmations for car service. Any of that stuff is great. One of my favorite things, something that I started doing kind of recently, I would say maybe in the last year or so, that I didn't do before is flights. So I put flights now into Master Tour, and that's made it super, super helpful for everybody, because when I send out a day sheet, which I'll show you how to create a day sheet from here in a second, it has everyone's flight information. It's got their confirmation number. It's got the airport. It's got everything they could want to know about their flight right there. So nobody has any excuse to miss their flight or to have any misinformation. Everyone's as taken care of as they can possibly be. So let's see if I have something to fly. Yeah, so here's an example where we were all flying in two separate parties to a show, from a show day to a show day. So where were we going? Singapore to Malaysia. So you go here to travel, and you can click add day travel. You can go wherever. Never done import from TripIt, so I can't speak on that, but you can add travel or day travel, and that will just show where it's organized on the day sheet. And then when you get into that, it'll look like this. And you can create, the party. So I always put the person's name, and, if you have more than one person in the party with the same confirmation, then of course, that's no problem. Put all their names in the party. You put the origin and the departure time. And when you put the origin in there and the departure time, it automatically knows what the time zone is. So you don't have to worry about that. And then when you put the destination, it does the same thing, and it will automatically display the travel time. So this is a 1-hour flight. That's actually accurate, so that was good. So it displays a 1-hour flight, including time changes and all that stuff. So that's everyone knows how long the flight is. Then I like to put the confirmation number in. I don't put ticket price or anything like that, just because that's not information that everyone needs to see. And then you can do connections as well. So if it was a connecting flight, you can add multiple flight legs in here, and that's great as well. This is all really useful for people to see, obviously. Set list, we didn't fill the set list out for that. Hotel information as well, you can add in here, and it'll populate it with the address. This is the same thing as with the venue. So if I click into the hotel and I can't edit this one because it was made with a previous version of Master Tour, so it won't work properly. But when you go to type in the hotel name, it will automatically populate. Actually, let's see here. Here we go. Yeah. So let's say I want to do like nope, I was right. I can't edit it. So yeah, but you can go type in the hotels there to automatically populate the same way the venue did, which is great. Last thing I'm going to show you guys is how to make a day sheet on here. Super simple. Back at the dashboard. So here's a simple, no travel. We'll do one with some travel on it. We're fine. Let's do a show day. So all you're going to do is hit Control P or Apple P, either one, and it'll pop up with all your templates here. So I've actually you can create your own template by clicking Add Template. I did that for show day because I think that it's super useful to make sure you have the right information that's necessary to your crew. Not every team's going to need the same information. And then I don't like all of these templates up here. I don't think that they're all as thorough as they should be, and they don't fit everything that you need to fit on there. So I click on the show day one here, and it'll populate all the information from that, all the information that I wanted from the dashboard there will come up in a day sheet form. And I can download this by clicking print, and now I have it, and I can send it out to my team. As you can see, we'll run through a day sheet, obviously, like I've been saying. But some of the things I like to include on there from Master Tour are I like to have my artist logo. It makes everyone feel like a team, makes it feel like an organization. I think that's pretty cool. And then, date, is it a show day, travel day, or an off day? Where's the venue? What city are we in? And then the hotel. as well as the venue. And then I had the full schedule here. If there was any travel, it would go in here. And I'll show you what a travel day sheet would look like in 1 second. But then I have notes as well, and then the week schedule down here, so everyone sees what's coming up. So this is all really useful. I like this a lot. I started doing this probably the last 6-7 months, just creating this template. I figured it was more thorough than some of the stuff the Master Tour was offering, and it allowed me the personalization with the logo and whatnot. So let me get into a travel day real quick here. Here's a lot of travel. Okay, so same thing. I'm going to Control P and hit my travel day template. And this is what you can send out to this is what you're going to be sending out to your team the night before. So this is super helpful to them because they'll look at this. So each person will know, where are they traveling? Who is it? Where are we going from? What time? How long is the flight going to be? What's my confirmation number? What airlines are we flying? And this helps because they show up to the airport, pull out their phone, and they're, my confirmation number is whatever, type it in, and they're good to go. There's no issues. We have all the answers down here as far as any travel notes, as far as when people land.
Love the airport contact in this one.
Etc. All good stuff. I think
that airport contact was great, by the way.
Kitty, yeah, her name was Kitty. You get to, yeah. I'm not even gonna get into. We were in Shanghai. It was a crazy one. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I got from Master Tour. If any of you other guys have anything you want me to touch on or show, or questions you want to ask, I can get into it later. Guys from the panel, feel free to let me know what to touch on, or people in the audience, I can come back to things later at the end.
Hey Jordan, I was just gonna add. I mean, you put everything in there, but I was just gonna say, too much information is not existent with Master Tour. Like, I would rather give people way more information than they need, that that they can know, than to leave something out, because you're gonna have people asking every 5 minutes, hey, what time is Master Tour? Master Tour. So I load everything in there, like Jordan said.
Yeah.
Keep people away from me.
100%. And as you can see, we have things like, lobby call, what time's transport, and people in my team will get mad at me all the time for putting a different lobby call time than the transport time because they want to know why they need to be down there before the car's there. That's the whole fucking point, is that they need to be down there before the car's there. So you put the transport at 6:45, no one's gonna be down there until 6:50. Put the lobby call at 6:30, you got no problems. So that's how thorough you want to be on that. You're telling everybody what to do, when to be where. I put explicit travel notes in here when we were traveling in Asia, as far as exactly what to expect when you landed at customs. So because we weren't traveling in the same party, so there were times where I was flying with a party and I was a tour manager, so I was letting the crew go alone, and I needed them to make sure they got to their contacts all smooth, because I'd be flying while they were on the ground. So it's really important to be thorough, especially when you're splitting the crew up. Again, a party transport, all the flights, lobby call again, transport to the venue, load in, soundcheck, go back to the hotel, back to the venue. Every single detail is in there.
Another thing to touch on here was, obviously, like in an Asian tour, ideally any international tour, everyone ideally flies together to keep things kind of cohesive for the tour manager. But in this case, we had the B party having to go directly to a lot of these shows and festivals to program. So we had to split up. So it just makes it even better for Jordan to just put all the information in there rather than have it on his phone, because people are going to be hitting him up. There's really crazy times that we're flying at too, either early in the morning or whatnot. So
yeah, there's nothing more stressful personally as a tour manager than having your crew split up internationally when people haven't been to any of these places before ever. And you're like, all right, well, I want to make sure that everyone lands in, where are we flying today, to Malaysia, and lands and gets to their car and gets to their hotel successfully, so that otherwise, they're going to be mad at you at the end of the day, whether it's your fault or not. It's your job to get them from point A to point B, as we've always stated. So yes, the last thing I didn't get to show you guys is how to add users. And that's really important because you're going to need to add people and they're going to have different access. So let's get into that real quick. Go to settings over here is where all your tour settings are going to be. You can control your logos. You can control guest list templates and kind of what passes you're going to have. You can set up schedules and have template schedules as well. So on your headline tour, if you have a schedule you're following each night, you can just click that and input that automatically. I do a lot of clicking through Master Tour. That's how you learn the tricks, is just by going through and messing around with it and being like, oh, I didn't know I could do this. And then you have a tool. So here we go, users. And we already have all these people put in, but when you go to add, so if I clicked on, let's click on our good friend Cotton here. So I can enter a whole lot of information in for Cotton. I can put what company he works for. I can put his nickname. I can put his bag tag number if he has that, stage name, phone numbers, a whole contact list essentially. And he can put all of his details in, as detailed as you want, really. I don't typically go with all of that, but you could get that deep into it if you had a lot of time on your hands. Diet, we don't get into that. Not enough room, swag sizes, history. Yeah, so there's a lot of good stuff that you could put in. But what I'm trying to get into here, I can't do this because, hey, we're in a bit of a dilemma. I can't do this because Chad is the administrator on his account, and his account is currently inactive. But basically what you're able to do is when you go in and you create a user, you can give them different access as far as administrator, manager, and whatnot, and it gives them access to the set list or the guest list and the schedule. And so if maybe your band doesn't have access to, or maybe like your music director doesn't have access to your guest list or something like that, or whatever. But we don't do a lot with that. It's more about who has permission to actually confirm guest list. That's probably one of the most important things. And who has the ability to go in and input information. There's a professional version and a professional desktop version, and also a mobile free version. So most of your team's going to have the mobile free version, and you'll be the one that has the professional versions on the desktop, so you can go and enter everything in on there. And when you have the professional version on your desktop, you're also able to enter everything onto it on your phone. But the people with the mobile version, you're not going to be able, like, who are not an administrator, that will not be able to add any information in. So it's just you as a tour manager that has access to that stuff.
Yep. As a free user, you can input guest lists though. So if you're a user on the road and you have people, and the tour manager's using, you got to make sure that they use Master Tour guest list, because some people use Master Tour but don't use the guest list function. So yeah, make sure they do, and then you just simply go to whatever day. I think it's under what is it under, guys? Is it under, I think it's just a guest list.
For what?
On the phone version, I think it's just
hang on, I can pull it up. I don't know if anyone
on the mobile version, you go to the day and you go to the event, and then under event. Yep.
If this connects, but you hit events and then
so that's all you gotta do. So you have like this is what it looks like on the phone. I mean, it's a pretty terrible way to do this, I know, I'm sorry, but that's what we're gonna do. It just looks like this, so everyone sees all the dates, and if I click on it here, then I have a full schedule with all the notes in there, and everybody can see everything. And if I click on one of these flights here, it's going to show all the details as well. So everybody will have that information. And as Chad was saying, if you go and click on events up here, and then you can click on the guest list. We had no guest list because we were in Malaysia, but you can just go ahead and add a guest, just as we said before. And that'll populate on the desktop version of everybody. It'll all sync across everything. And you used to need to sync everything manually on Master Tour, but now it does it automatically. But still, click it anyways. It's the worst thing is skipping your 8 flights in and then have to delete it.
I want to mention as well, a great thing about this, guys, is when you work with your teams and you have managers involved and publicists as well, so they can see your schedule. Part of your scheduling, you can decide the visibility to each user. So, if you don't want the manager worrying about load-in times and bus calls and shit, you can let them see certain scheduling things, and same thing for publicists. It's just one thing to keep things organized so you don't get people hitting you up all the time or getting confused.
Yep, it becomes your best friend for sure. managers won't have to hassle you, rather that once you get them into the mode of knowing where all this information is. Let's take a couple of these questions that people had while you're sharing your screen, Jordan.
I'll put it back up when the question, depending on what it is.
All right. This one says, do you have to enter users for each tour, or once you have someone's info, does it populate all of your master tour?
Let me go into. I think I should have another tour. Yeah. Hang on. I know what I can do. I'll show you guys how to do it. Hang on. I'll go to the Kyle tour that I have. I think I'm the administrator for, so it'll let me do it. That'll explain all that. All right. So if I switch over to Kyle here, then I should.
Yep.
Okay. So I can go here and add users now, and I can search for a user. So if I type in like Cotton, what's your masturbatory email? Or Chad, what's yours? Is that yours, Chad?
Yeah, there's one under that. Wasted Potential Presents. I think there's one.
Cool. Yeah. So he's already in here. So if I click this, here we go. It takes you to the internet now. And you can run through all this, and you can see exactly what the access you get is for everything. So this is what you have. You're the administrator, and you have everything, obviously. Accounting and manager are basically the same thing, so they can't edit the user and they can't edit the accounting. This is what you want your whole crew to have. Mobile guest. You want everybody to pretty much have mobile guest list, mobile set list, and mobile access, or except for yourself, pretty much just yourself, and maybe management if necessary, but not typically necessary. So yeah, these are the permission levels. And so when I go into Master Tour, where did it go? Then I can select how I want to add Chad. So I'll add Chad just as the mobile guest list, which automatically will give him mobile access, and then he's added. So that's how that works. Go back here, or yeah. So then you have a list of all your users here.
Also, Jordan, maybe touch on. So if you hit someone's name right there, like anyone's name, I believe you can go down and select. If you have a bunch of other artists that you're administer for, I know on mine at least, because there's a few, you could basically say, like, let's say this Julian guy, we hired him, he was working on Kyle, and then we had him go out on Fozzy or something, or like a Griffin.
Griffin instead.
Yeah, you can actually take his name and give him access to other tours as well without fully like inviting him separately to the Fozzy thing. But yeah,
for the advanced level course, which we'll get into later.
It's pretty simple. Ariana, I think you had a question. If you want to unmute yourself.
Yeah, so my question was about the app in general, and if it updates pretty frequently, or if you've ever experienced any issues with that.
You have to people have to refresh it before they look at it. Like when you can go on the app, and if you don't refresh it, it will still have the information the last time it was synced if anything's changed. So as long as everyone refreshes it, you're good, as far as I know.
Okay,
and,
cool.
I mean, what do you mean as far as how often the app software updates?
Yeah, have you ever had an issue with losing info and having to re-input stuff?
I mean, only if this is actually a very important thing. So you can't have two users logged into the same account on the desktop ever. So when we started, we would have Chad would have the account, and then he would give it to me so that I could run my tour. But if Chad happened to need to log in to do something for a client, and he would log in at the same time as me, it would kick me out. And if I didn't sync previously, then I would lose that information. But that's the only way that I've lost information, not by the software ever screwing me really or anything like that. They just updated to Master Tour. I don't know, is this 3 or it's 3.1. 2.0, 2 is a whole different situation. And I remember being really worried going into Mash. No one wanted to update Master Tour 3 because we were all like so concerned that it was going to be all janky and like different. But it actually worked out for the better. So it's cool. And yeah, it's a great software. We haven't really had any problems with it.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, I've definitely seen the whole swipe thing. It seems to be people's excuses. Crew members, like the drummer, as Justin would say, will be late to a lobby call and be like, "Oh, well, my master tour," and you're like, "All right,
He refreshes it, and you're like,
everyone that tours, you gotta pull down on it."
But that also goes back to why you send day sheets each night as a tour manager, because any day sheet every night, and that's pretty much written in stone unless you update it. So even if you update Master Tour after the day sheet goes out, if you don't alert your whole crew and send a new day sheet, you updating the Master Tour is not enough. I mean, you need to fix those or let them know about those changes.
Yeah. Yeah. When do you guys like sending them out your day sheets? I usually used to do it at like 10 p.m.
No, after 10. Send them out at like 4 or 5. I like to do so they can read them during dinner.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I can't do that with my crew. I would have to send it out before we go to bed, just because my crew would be like, "Oh, I got confused of which one was which and what day it was." This is the crew I was working with, so I would send it out the night before while we're on the bus going to bus call. Like send it out.
Oh yeah. I also like to put it. You also could have like a little. I also like to have a little text template that I toss into the group chat as well. If you have a small enough tour, that helps as well, because put it every place you can. But I like to screenshot the day sheet and put it in the group text so that everyone could see it everywhere. You can't miss it then.
Yeah, like for my tours, like literally the last 3 texts I send is pizza in the green room, bus call at this time, and the day sheet for the next day.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, hey, that's one of those things of really just knowing your crew, because
Exactly.
when I start a tour, when I have my pre-tour meeting or whatever we do, I tell everybody that's your Bible. So if you want to know what's going on, you're gonna open that app, you're gonna refresh it. I think when we were on Juice, we realized that they weren't gonna look at the day sheets that we printed. So if y'all not gonna look at the day sheets, then y'all gotta use Master Tour, or like if they have security that's on the road with them, or an assistant. Like if the artist isn't doing it, make sure somebody in the camp is doing it, so that they know what's going on. I wanted to add something else too, Jordan, that or Jordan and Chad were talking about as far as a guest list. Again, that's knowing the group that you're with. Giving everybody mobile access to the guest list can be very, very helpful for you, because it just lets them add who they want. They'll do it within reason. But again, I work with a lot of rappers. I work with ASAP Mob, and so that's 4 or 5 rappers from New York, and so they will add 50 names to the guest list, and we only have 50 comps for the show. So for me, on some tours, knowing who I'm dealing with, I don't give them mobile access. I make them give it to me or to my production assistant, and we just deal with it right then, because I don't want them to add the name and then have to go back later and be like, no, we don't have space for that. I just tell them up front, like, yo, we don't got it.
Yeah, and I think that's why I showed that template last week, was because of like the mass amount of tickets we had on like a tour like the GE tour, 235 tickets, and that was without it being in Master Tour ever, and that was just people. There's a whole lot that went into that, but there's just people sending texts, emails, that whatever it was. So yeah, 100%, definitely agree on that.
Yeah, sometimes too, like I know Manny, New York and LA will be handled like out of Master Tour.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No one gets guesses.
Will be handled in Master Tour because it's a lot more simple. So
Yeah, management's much more hands-on for those 2 days of the guest list, where they have record label people or booking agents coming, family or whatnot.
Oh yeah. Label will just send you a whole list of people. Management will send you a whole list of people, and then double it the day of the show.
Right. Other than that, I don't hear from them for guest lists, but those 2 shows in particular, that's all them.
Yeah.
Tobin, you want to unmute yourself? I saw you had actually, no, it was Mel. Sorry. Mel Adams.
Yeah, who pays for the fee for membership? Is that paid by the artist or management or something, or do you personally have to?
It's a great question. That's a timeless battle that hasn't been solved yet. I mean, it's a toss-up. A lot of the times, the artist will pay for it as long as you can convince the man. If it's a manager who's realistic and knows the value they're getting out of it, they'll pay for it. And I know for some artists, we pay for it out of our pocket. Yeah. Anyone else have anything on that? It's tough. It's like a coin flip.
Some artists,
I,
I mean,
go ahead.
some artists refuse to use it. Is that what you're gonna say?
Well, I pressed them to pay for it. Like, do you want to know where to go? Do you want to know where your hotel is? Like, I'm not gonna be able to answer my phone every 5 minutes. So if you want to know where you're going, my suggestion is that we use Master Tour, and you cover the expense. I count it as a tour expense, and even when I have conversations with business managers and budgeting and stuff like that, I just put it right in there because it's gonna end up coming on my. They're gonna end up seeing it on my ledger when I start doing my accounting. They're gonna see the deduction on my ledger. So I press them to pay for that, and then once the tour is over, I continue paying for it, and whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's totally worth it. It's peace of mind of everybody being on the same page.
And if
It's
they're
just
not in
convincing.
artist growth software, just run away.
Yeah, because a lot of artists physically don't use it themselves, and some managers don't use it, so they're like, "We don't need this." It's just they just don't get it. So yeah, that's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. Tobin, you want to unmute yourself? Saw you had one too.
I think you guys kind of answered this, but I guess I was just wondering like how you can send out messages. Like, is it just like a text feature through Master Tour, basically?
Yeah, they have a text feature through the app too. I know on Ronnie Rich they used it.
I've honestly never done it, but you could do it.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah, and I'm from experience, it can be kind of sketchy. I feel like that's one of the kinks that they haven't gotten worked out. So it can be a little sketchy.
Don't have push notifications on.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's why I always send an email or a text because I'm like,
Yep.
I want to hear that this software fucked you. That's
Right.
Yeah, like usually on tour, I would like set up a group text message for the tour party. Kind of just send them a text that way.
Yeah.
You can send out like the day sheet as well through that text, if you need to.
Right. That's what I normally do anyway, but I was just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they do
question, Toby.
one, and it's just you got to make sure everyone has push notifications.
Creating
larger tours, that's what I feel like they use a lot. Like when you have 100 crew members, I've seen them use the Master Tour thing, and then pre-tour they're like, yo, you need to have push notifications on. I told you now. That's it.
Yeah, but it's also sketchy. Like you're in the venue sometimes, and service is like not always ideal in those places, and then you miss the message. Just like
yeah. Some people do emails too. It's kind of the crew, everything's all just about knowing your crew. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Cool. If there's any more Master Tour questions, we can address them towards the end. For now, let's head towards. I guess we could just start showing off some different types of tours, day sheets, as examples. Jordan, if you want to lead off with like if you had a smaller tour day sheet on your.
People are gonna be tired of hearing from me. All right. So I'm gonna show you just a quick. I'm not gonna take a lot of time on this. I'm just gonna show you guys a day sheet from a Whit Lowry tour that I did 2 or 3 years ago. It was smaller, like 500 cap club run. Let me pull this up here. Where did it go? Hang on. There we go. There we go. So can you guys see it? Should I zoom in a little bit?
That's good.
Good. All right. So this is obviously a very simple day sheet created in Master Tour. It's got the hotel, venue, schedule, and then my notes. I have the template I like to use with the parking, the green rooms, Wi-Fi, and the merch percentage. This was something that was a little more important on these kind of runs because every dollar really counts. So you like to know what you get into every night as far as what the advanced merch numbers were. And this was important to my artist because Whit does really crazy merch numbers. So I wanted to make sure that he was getting the right amount of money every night. And so sometimes venues will try and be, oh no, it was 85, or no, it was 90. Like I think the deal said this, and make sure you have that handy so you can always talk about that. So this crew, so you can see here, what's kind of unique about, I guess we talked about this in types of tours as well, but you see it reflected here in the day sheet. We had a 6:45 a.m. lobby call and then a 7-hour drive. And now we were in a Sprinter and a trailer. So we had some production, a little bit of production, but we were driving ourselves. So we had to get up in the morning, drive 7 hours to hit a 2 p.m. load-in. Which, 2 p.m. load-in, we were doing 5 hours before doors was our standard load-in time. So that's like reflective of this kind of size of tour with minimal production. As we get into the different day sheets, you'll see how these times will differ. So it only took an hour to load in, minimal production, hit sound check for an hour, and then we had a meet and greet with 100 people in the same time as the artists or as a support sound check. So this created a unique situation because we needed to make sure that we had the opening artists in a separate, or the meet and greet in a separate area for the venue, so that the opening artists could sound check at the same time, so that there wasn't any noise pollution or anything like that. And then you see, doors, artists, curfew. Curfew's always good to put in there. It never hurts. Just let everyone know what time, the very latest they got to be off stage. As Justin, I'm sure will mention, he works with rappers. And those guys push that curfew quite a bit. I had, quite a buffer here. That could have been a little more of an issue in a different situation. My artist, not a problem. Run through the week at the bottom. I always like to include that, let everyone know what's going on. But that's pretty much it. This is an older day sheet for a smaller run, so it's not as thorough as they are now, but just kind of showing you guys kind of the building blocks of where it's going to build up to.
Yep. Cool. From there, I guess we can roll to a larger club tour. This would be like a single bus with like a box truck or some Manny, if you want to use Chelsea.
Yep.
Here.
Cool. Just let me get my screen share going. Okay. You guys see that yet? Okay, here we go.
Yep.
You guys see that?
Yep, you're good.
Cool. So yeah, this is Chelsea's day sheet from the show we had in Austin, the Emos. I think that's like 1,700 cap. So like Chad was saying, we have a bus with a trailer and a box truck for this one. So we were coming from Houston. So we had a bus call at 6 a.m. It's like 2-hour drive, but we stopped for gas. So you kind of want to account for that time as well for 10 a.m. load in. This one is a little more busy with Chelsea's kind of meet and greet stuff, but you do want to have everything laid out because this is a crew of like usually 9 to 12. You kind of want to have everything laid out so people can see what everyone is doing. So if Chelsea has an interview in the green room, like it says for 12:30 for me, the crew knows not to kind of go into the green room or whatnot. You kind of just want to have everybody's schedule laid out. So from load-in time to the band sound check is usually when everything's getting built. Stage production, lighting, audio's getting set up as well. Band kind of sets themselves up, but for this tour we had a tech. So the band knows to be back a little before 3. Kind of want to be on them too. Like if you know your crew and they're out, getting lunch or walking around the town or something, kind of want to make sure they know this as well. That's kind of why as well we send out the day sheets the night before or the day of, whatever it is for you. This as well, you can see the band sound check is 3 to 4. One thing I didn't have on this one, we started incorporating later on the tour, is like a line sound check for the crew, for audio guys. So just so they can be on the same page before the band gets on there, and then everything's running smooth from there. This one we had a Grammy U kind of visit. They kind of were more interested in like hanging out with Chelsea and seeing the stage set up. It's really more of a corporation that comes in and kind of asks questions tech wise. They're asking different questions than a normal like meet and greet would. But it's accounted for in the schedule of what time they're going to show up, what time we're sound checking. So that way Grammy U, that's what they're there for, to watch the sound check. That's what they're there for. So that was going to 4:30. And right after that time, you want to let your openers know, or direct support, whatever it is, when they're sound checking. So a day sheet like this, you're able to send out to the openers, TM, management can know what's going on in the day, as the guys mentioned before, to keep everybody on the same page. This kind of lets them know what time to start and stop. usually a tip I would like to give is like have the openers kind of set up off stage, bring it on stage ready to go, kind of cut down on time for them so they can maximize the sound check time you're going to get, because as I said on the last week's episode, like you're not going to get that time back as an opener. So you want to maximize the time you have. For this tour, we had, direct support and an opener. So very tight schedule, especially with the meet and greet stuff that we have going on later on in the schedule. After Alexander 23, we had Grammy U do a quick Q&A, kind of asking, how she got started, questions like that for the tech guys, like how do they set up, how do they get into it, questions like that. Quick group photo. The opener sound check's a little shorter. On this tour, they were sharing a drum set, so that's why the time is kind of cut. They only have to set up, the guitar and their microphone, whatever playback rig they have as well. Meet and greet enters the venue, how long the meet and greet time is. Meet and greet entering the venues are usually when they're getting checked in from security, your VIP person who's running it, stuff like that. Meet and greet time, when it starts and when it ends. Meet and greet, the early entry coming into the venue. This tour, she had meet and greet fans who would come in and do a large Q&A. So we allowed 30-minute Q&A, and before the doors open, once they're in the building, they stay in. So they were allowed to be the first ones to shop at the merch table. So with that being said, our merch girl was running VIP and merch. So she was able to kind of smoothly direct them from after the VIP right to the merch, and then, get doors open. Door schedule, you'll see one time the opener goes on 7:45 to 8:05. Set change, very important. You want to make sure anybody who's working the stage is at, ready and available on that time so they can get everything off, get the next act going up. Set change again, Chelsea's time, bus breakdown, the bus loadout and all that stuff like that. You just want to make sure that time is when you're off stage to get on the bus. Usually you want to know the curfew of the building, so when everybody has to kind of get out of the green rooms, stuff like that. That kind of varies if you're finessing with the venue or whatnot. And then what time you have to leave to go to the next city. So you want to just mark that down, and every day it's going to change. So you just want to be on top of your master tour template, what time things are changing and stuff like that. Cool. If anybody else got anything to add?
No, that was great. Next, we can go over towards more of a arena support. So not being the headliner at an arena. Levi, you could take this one.
Yeah. Hey guys, being a support on an arena run, there's a lot of it during the days. A lot of it's on the fly. Go ahead and share you guys this. So just a quick overview, right? Same thing. You got your day sheet. To each his own, however you like to do it. What kind of info you want to put on it, but most importantly, the day of show schedule. So usually on a arena tour, the opener doesn't want you arriving there, of course, before them, but make sure that you don't get there during the loads that are setting up. Usually you don't get breakfast catering because you are the opener. So you usually want to arrive after 10:30, ideally around 12. You can get into your guys' green room. All these have nice showers typically because they're arenas. And then you got to really just find your production contact there for the stage manager. You might have a rough range, like here, 3 to 4, it's slotted. So you have your team on standby. But again, depending on their schedule, they will let you know when they have hands available for you to help open your trailer and get any gear you guys have to stage. Same thing for sound check, is making sure you have your artists around the building, give or take 30 minutes of usually your sound check time. Sometimes it might be earlier than 6 o'clock. Sometimes it might be up to 6:50 and you just get a line check. Again, all of this is really on the fly. Just making sure you're ready. Again, the reason I have 6:50 to 7 is because, again, I'll be at front of house as a lighting guy. So I just want to make sure that they're aware that they need to be side stage with the DJ. Set time, ready to rock and roll, hit it. And then, we want to get out of the building. We want to get out of everyone's way. So it's very straightforward being a support, and it's a really well-oiled machine. Once you guys get into it, you show up, dude. I mean, the catering's bomb, showers are great, and you just got to wait and hear when they're ready for you, and just be ready to rock and roll when you can, and just kill the show, because you guys are the first one on an arena, and have a good time. After show, again, making sure people are aware of what time you're leaving, and you'll let them know in whatever group chat you have, WhatsApp or iMessage, making sure your team is aware of all your bus call times and whatnot. And when it comes to arena tours as well, you can try to move with the other acts and the headliner, like when they move, you move. But again, the thing is, you don't want to be there after, you don't want them waiting on you to leave, and you don't want to be there before them. That's one of the big things.
True. Awesome. And we can roll to, let's go to Cotton for like a radio.
One thing on the support run that I wanted to mention that Levi just touched on is about like timing your stuff out with the headliners. Before you send your day sheet out each night, it's important to talk to the production manager of the headliner before you leave the venue, or before, like, during the day sometime, and ask them what time they need you out of there, so that everyone knows the time your bus call needs to be. Because I remember on Timberlake they had so many trucks that our bus was blocking the trucks, and that we needed to leave before the trucks or right after the trucks, and it was a whole, if we weren't out by that time, it screwed their entire night up. And so it was really important for us to be diligent about that.
That's a good point.
Yep. True. Cool. Let's go to Cotton for like a radio jingle ball type of tour. If he's on here.
What's up, guys? I'm out here. Share my screen. Cool. Oh, cut you off. So yeah, this one is for a radio show. A good radio show, because you actually got a sound check for this one. But same information: hotel, date, venue, breakfast, lobby call. This one was early. I think this was day one of the tour, and we actually headlined this radio show. So we was the first to sound check. Note that we had a 10 a.m. sound check, which is kind of early. Lunch is in here, doors, press block, which is pertaining to the artist, photos, meet and greet, stuff like that. Turntable final spins, 9:59, which means we had a 5-minute changeover. But this goes back to when we discussed the different type of shows and stuff. This was like something on a turntable stage that had an A and B side. So we was already set up on one side, the stage turned, and then boom, we had a little 20-minute performance. These shows are easy. Obviously the set is short, easy money. You're on stage, you do 3 or 4 songs, and then that's it. These are kind of like my favorite type of shows, just because, you're normally playing in arenas. Normally the venue is bigger than what the artists normally play, so you kind of get spoiled playing in front of big crowds. And then yeah, this is really easy, just to show you what a day sheet would look like for a radio show.
I think it's important to note like the times, see how specific they are with like 10:04 to 10. Like they're to the minute with that shit too. They don't play with you being late on that. They will just
you'd be late on the radio. There's also a lot of, for the tour manager, there's a lot of press on these ones.
All politics, this whole tour.
We didn't really account for that in the day sheet, but there's a whole, what do they call it at the radio runs? It's like a specific name, right?
Yeah, no, it's the press block right here. So it's the press room. So they take you to the press room. Cotton can talk about it.
I didn't do a lot of press, but basically radio shows is more about appealing to, your radio stations, people that get you your radio plays, your streaming and things. It's more like a publicity tour to try to grow you as an artist. So it's a lot of handshaking, a lot of kissing to the babies. So you typically like go in a room and, you might meet people you've never seen before from, radio stations, local radio stations, and you take pictures, you introduce yourself, make you, look good as an artist. So you can, pretty much get more spins on the radio and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of important. It kind of shapes your image as an artist. That's why radio shows are typically, they're easy, but, they have some weight behind them as far as their importance.
And labels kind of use like these radio shows almost as currency to help get like more spins and whatnot on these stations for the artist. So the better impression that you're making, the better it's going to reflect to the label, and that's going to reflect well on you. That helps you establish really good relationships with like record labels and stuff like that, just as a tour manager on your own. But like Cotton said, the press block at these things is typically an interview and a meet and greet of like 50 people or so. And when you're advancing, you'll specify, you know, how many people it is. Is it in pairs? Is it in fours? All that kind of good stuff. But figuring out if your artist likes that before his set or his or her set or after his or her set is really important, because sometimes the artists don't want to be there until the set needs to happen, or they want to be in the zone before the set. Sometimes they just want to get it done before so they can get the hell out of there after the set's over. So just kind of important to have that conversation in advance.
Yep.
You might also hear them saying that you're going to go to the radio room, and they'll call it a media blitz, because you hit so many stations or PDs or whatever it is, like super quick right through. So you may hear it referenced as that every once in a while.
Cool. Anyone else have anything on radio runs? The turntable stage on there too is the stage we talked about that has 2 different setups, spins, so there's no changeover necessarily.
Oh, and a lot of times, like, we had a bus on that tour, but we only had a bus for half of it because those dates are so spread out, like, all over the country, that I think, like, we had a show, it was, like, in San Fran, and the next night was Minneapolis, and then the next night was, like, Boston. But then after Boston, it all ran down the East Coast to Florida, so it made sense. But, like, those are really interesting logistically to plan for. If you're playing a lot of them, sometimes you got to get creative with it.
Yep. Cool. Justin, let's have you go over some DJ, like a Vegas DJ type of gig, if you got a day sheet for that.
Yep. Screen share. I'll make this super quick. Is it up already?
Yep, you're good.
Over a little bit. It's this very basic. This is the day sheet that I use for French Montana for Dre's. Pretty much it's the same thing that everybody has already said. I add, extra stuff to my day sheets. Again, it's all about knowing your crew. These day sheets that this particular one goes out to management. I send it to the artist. I send it to our DJ, our security, cameraman. Everybody's on it. But I know French doesn't read day sheets. And so, as we mentioned before, I start a text message thread, put everybody in it for that show. Or if it's the same crew that was at the last show, then I just keep that same thread going, and I add everything in there, because from the mobile app you can just, if you hold down in the mobile app on the schedule, it'll copy it to the clipboard, and then you can paste it into the chat. One thing I wanted to also mention that I don't know if anybody else said it. Some people like the day sheet when you email it to them, they want it as an attachment, but some people also want it as a text, like the text in the body of the email. So just again, be mindful of what your crew wants. And what I do is I put in the text of the day sheet so that they can highlight or do whatever they need to do. And then I also attach this to the email. I leave fun notes in there. Fringe's DJ Duffy, she likes to twerk, so we always know Duffy's going to twerk every show. Don't bother me, and his security max is ugly. One of the specific things for Dre's, at least for our deal, and this I always say, go back to your deal memo. Know what your deal memo says. For us, we had a $75 food credit on our hotel rooms for the night that we were there. So that was at the Cromwell because it's inside of Dre's. For this in particular, my artist has a place in Vegas. So you'll see that I'm doing lobby calls for myself and the DJ, but not for him. You'll see FM departs condo. But let me just go back up to the top of the schedule. I put in the flight information for myself and Duffy. When we depart LA, when we arrive in Vegas, line checks. So for French, he's just a microphone and a DJ. He doesn't come to sound check. DJ doesn't come to sound check. I go to sound check. I have all of our show music. I throw it in one of the CDJs. I make sure everything is at the right levels. I put a mix together with their house engineers for his ears to make sure it's at a comfortable level. And then from there, it's self-explanatory. I put the doors, we put the lobby car for myself and Duffy. The Cromwell, again, Dre's nightclub is in the Cromwell if you've never been there. So we don't have to have like a crazy lobby call time because we need to catch a ride or anything like that. I've got, again, the time that he's going to be leaving his place, his arrival time. This particular one was a combination of Dre's, but it was also an iHeart and MasterCard performance. So again, down to the minute, we're doing press and photo 10:15 to 10:30, introduction at 10:58, and then right at 11 o'clock he hits, and then as you see, the party ends at 3 o'clock. As we keep saying, I work with rappers, and so when we do these club shows, it's a party. One thing that I always try to tell tour managers is to remember, it's a party, it's fun, but we're still working. With some of my artists, I'm not a drinker, a big drinker anyway, but you know, if they say we're off the clock, you know, I may have a drink with them, but for the most part, I'm at work. And so even though it is a party, we got bottles and all this stuff, I just keep it professional. And if we go out the next night and, you know, we hang out, that's when I can do my thing. Also, I keep over here travel notes for Duffy and myself because we're Ubering to the hotel from the airport and back to the airport the next day on the travel day. One other thing that I'll point out, especially for club shows, Dre's is the perfect example for this because, I mean, at least for Vegas, Dre's is one of the few places where you can bring like a full band. So like when we do Ty Dolla $ign at Dre's, this is a little more lengthy. For Ty, we have sound checks, we have load-in time. So just like you would have for a fly date, or even like the Jingle Ball dates that Cotton was just talking about, all of that stuff would be in this day sheet. The load-in times, the sound check times, Ty's lobby call, things like that. So super self-explanatory. It's basically taking elements from all the other day sheets and putting it on this one.
Dope. Cool. We can finish off before we do a deep dive. Let's do a festival run. Jordan or Cotton, whoever wants to take the lead on it.
Cotton.
Free.
I just wanted to talk about the Lollapalooza story because I think it's a good logistical story.
Can you pull up a date sheet, Jordan? Hold on, never mind.
What?
Oh, wait, I gotta stop sharing. Hold on.
Got it.
What day should
Lala.
Oh, you want? That's what you want?
Or you could use your master.
No, give me a second. I'll pull up one. Give me one
I was gonna. I mean, I have.
I got juices up right now.
The situation of it more so.
Oh, I got it. I'm about to share it.
I was caught. There's the juice Philly.
Yeah, I'm about to do it. I got it. Cool. All right, so this one, can you see this?
Yes.
Is a festival made in America. This one again is a lucky one. We didn't headline this one, but we were second before Cardi B. So we had a sound check. But basically same thing, lobby calls. This was 9 to 10, load in and setup, which is setting up backline and things like this. This one's a little interesting because with B Party being in Philly, the night before A Party was in Vegas, actually doing Dre's. So they landed day of show for this one. But your sound checks, A Party departs to Philly 10 a.m., leaving Vegas. BNC Party goes back to hotels, festival doors, lobby call back to festival. This is interesting. This is when A Party landed in Philly, and they went straight from the airport to the festival, hit the stage, and then as soon as they got off the stage, they got back in the Sprinter and then drove down to Atlantic City for another club set. Obviously, this day is busy. The day before you have a club show, then you have a show, and then a couple hours later you have a club show, another club show. But this typically what your festival will look like if you're the headliner or, you know, high in the building when you have a sound check. Sometimes basically it's the same thing, but, you know, sometimes you just don't have a sound check. Festivals can change. You know, sometimes, you know, weather changes it. Sometimes traffic, you know, obviously traffic is always something to worry about at festivals. I don't per se like festivals. They're just a headache to deal with as far as coordinating things, especially like when you have a rapper that moves differently. You know, we have a big crew. You got a lot of things to worry about. But yeah, this is what a festival run the show typically look like.
Cool. I guess we could just dive into Cotton. Did you have other stuff for the deep dive?
Yeah, I had another run the show.
Yeah, so now we're gonna dive in deeper to a I can't remember if we're gonna do Juice or Trippy.
Before you guys dive in, there's a few things I forgot to mention. I'm sorry to backtrack back to being on a support arena tour, guys. I know when you're on a headline tour, you're going to have a different contact at every venue. I kind of skimmed over this, but on arenas, you have the same contact every day, which is going to be the headline production people. So it's not going to be a different person every day. Also, when it comes to your crew size, because it's going to be smaller budgets, you probably have just one bus or vans, and you know, I can count on two hands how many people you're going to have. Also, sometimes as a support artist on a headline tour, the headlining tour manager may give you access to their master tour, but they may not. I've had both happen to me. And then I think when we mentioned line check versus sound check, if you guys don't know the difference, pretty much you don't, when they use doors, or you can't make sound through the PA, so you just got to check signal, which is called a line check.
Yep, that's a good way. Yeah, good to mention that. You'll run a lot into that if you know time or sound, not sound curfews, but sound ordinances. Like if you can't make sound till 5 p.m., you could still do a line check to make sure everything's functional, and then make noise at 5 or whatever.
Yeah, to touch on that topic as well too. Sometimes as the headliner, you're doing meet and greet, and the artist doesn't want any sound going on, so support might not be able to do a sound check, but do a line check.
Yeah, we've ran into that. Cool. Cotton, you feel free to take the lead here if you want to share your screen, and then we'll all dive into this tour together.
Yep.
Cool. So this is a kind of in-depth date sheet. This is a headline arena amphitheater tour. Same information, venue, hotels, but as you see, the actual information is kind of, it's a lot. So let's start from the beginning. You know, 6 a.m. all trucks arrive at venue. This one we had a 6:30 a.m. lobby call for the rigging team. Notice on this date sheet, this is what I would print in the venue. So the information is kind of different. Like rigging lobby call 6:30, but if you go like to the mobile app, it says the people, like the actual name of the people that has lobby call. So it's myself, Jason, Toby, and Ryan. This one says clear to drop at docks, bobtail the parking lot. This is information for the truck drivers that have master tour as well. Like 6:45, buses to the Ford transfer the venue from hotel, spots are labeled 1 through 5. Venue access, the loading door number, blah, blah, blah. 7:15 is tech lobby call, black 15 passenger van. 7:15 is walk and talk, PA for this show, which is the sound system, meaning that we was carrying our own sound system for this show. And then, more information, load in. I always put the stagehand count underneath the load in. So we have 6 hands for video, lighting, audio, 4 loaders, and 1 fork operator. Union coffee break. I put this in there, but it's typically just 2 hours after load-in. So 10 a.m. to 10:15, just a 15-minute break for the union to get coffee. 11:45 is the status check labor cut. This is where I would go to my stage manager to see if we can cut hands. 12 noon would be our 4-hour mark for stage hands. So I'll go in there and see, hey, how we're looking. And then if he gives me go ahead, we can cut. 12 noon is band department head lobby call, like the band, the engineers, the lighting director, leaving the hotel, come to the venue. Lunch is in here, sound checks. Security meeting, I always put the location. It's either my office or the venue office, just depending on which office is bigger, basically. My stage walkthrough, this is my final walkthrough I do with security and myself to make sure we're clear for doors. This is kind of the time I get to, just take a break and relax for a minute. Then I have the doors here, VIP, main doors, like early entry and things. 8 p.m. is bus one arrival, which is bus one typically is your star coach. They arrive later, obviously, than other buses. Opener times, set time, and then we get to load out. 10:15 crew back is just me letting the crew know that the stage hands will be back at 10:15, which is 15 minutes prior to load out. And then just all trucks depart, parking at Chauvet's, how do you say, Arena, which is the next show. And then a 2:30 bus call. All bus call means all buses leave at 2:30. And then I noted that we had the rooms ready the night before, so we can get in early. But yeah, like I said, this is in-depth day, but this is typically the information you would share for a headline arena run.
And you can also put the notes that he has in match or in the day sheet as well, like Justin and I touched on. You can customize them how you like. I mean, I know he didn't do it because it would have been a 4-page document then. But,
right.
But it is possible to do it as well.
True. I guess next, what else do we have here, guys? If there's any questions on run of show or master tour or anything, we could get to those, but overall this is a pretty straightforward session. Anyone else have anything to touch on here from our team? I think you're muted, Justin. There you go.
All right, my bad. I was just gonna say, in regards to run the show, just like super important, make sure this is your show. This is your day. Even though you do it every day, make sure you really follow that run the show. Because if you start to clip that curfew time, then you're putting yourself in a position to have conversations with venue managers and all these different people that you have to have conversations with if you're getting close to your curfew. Again, this happens more with rappers than anything, but also in regards to run a show, don't be scared. These openers, because they get out of line a lot of times too. If they're late, it's your show. Your artist is going to pay if you go over curfew. So don't be scared to tell that opener like, yo, you're late? Okay, well, we got to cut your set down 15 minutes. Gotten to tell you. We had a situation with Blueface in New Mexico. His manager tried to fight me in the backstage area. However, it's my show. My artist is going to pay for that overage charge. So we have to abide by this because we're not going to pay it. So don't be scared to put your foot down because a lot of times you have to. Yeah. But don't get beat up.
Also, too, to jump in on what Justin was talking about, we're talking about the schedule with venues. You kind of want to give them the schedule so that way, like when you have a meet and greet, they have security there. What time their front of house guy is there to help our guy, lighting guy, stuff like that. You just want to make sure you're going through all this stuff with the venue.
Yeah, I mean, you're advancing. Like this is pretty much so. Your whole advance process is in order to ensure that these runs of shows that you've advanced run the way they do. So it's all the work that you do before tour to make sure that everything runs on these times that we're talking about on these day sheets. So it's about, calculating your drive times, calculating your lobby calls, knowing how long your crew takes to get ready, and all those little things, not just putting the times into Master Tour and creating the day sheet. It's where do you get those times from, and how are you able to adapt to each different situation and make it work for your team as a whole. It's kind of like Master Tour is your Bible, but you have to work to fill it and get it all situated. And advancing is really the most important part to make sure these other shows go the way they do and continue to be successful.
Yep. Douglas, saw you had a question if you want to unmute yourself.
Hey, I was actually in the middle of typing another question, so I have a couple questions if that's cool. One is kind of just like a general question. Obviously, like we were just explaining, the point is to set all these things up and plan it all out. So hopefully things do go according to plan and you could follow these schedules. But of course, you got to be flexible and things do change. Like when set times change, typically, are they pushed back? Are they pushed forward? Why do they change? And how do you usually account for that? How often does that usually happen? Does it happen frequently, or is it kind of actually rare?
Guess it depends on the tour you're on, right? So if you're on a tour with someone who tends to be all over the place, they have press, they have club shows, they got private jets and stuff. Sometimes you'll run into scenarios where you got to switch up the schedule. I know, some of our guys have experience with that.
I think that the most important thing is, as a tour manager, it's your job to have the show ready to run at the time that you have advanced and are scheduled for. And the only reason that show shouldn't go off at that time is because your artist has delayed it for whatever reason. As far as pushing sets up, that would only happen in a situation where maybe you have a long drive the next day, everyone's already in the building, and you're like, all right, let's go on stage. Let's not wait this hour between doors and us to go on if there's no opener. We've done that before, but it's important to get a drop count. A drop count is knowing how many people are in the building. So if you know it's a sellout and say it's 1,000 tickets sold and only 500 in the building, probably don't want to go on stage yet. You're gonna have a lot of angry fans. So that's an important thing to know as a tour manager, to be aware of the show. But typically you don't push up sets, and you only push sets if there's a serious production issue or if the artist is late.
If there is a set change, though, it is your job to delegate. Don't assume everybody's just going to know.
Cool. And I typed in my other question, but I guess I'll just ask it since I'm still unmuted. Which I'm just curious, and I guess I'm sure the question is going to be, it's a case-to-case basis and different with every tour. But as a tour manager, typically how many weeks or months do you start advancing a tour? And how does getting paid work for that? Are you getting paid the same sort of salary you're getting paid when you're actually on tour while you're at home advancing? Or, how does those details work? It looks like Justin likes that question. I don't know. He's laughing.
Because it's that's like an ongoing battle. It's one of those things. It's always going to be an ongoing battle.
Well, I figured that's why I was, kind of curious. So
yeah, I try to set the standard when I come into situations. For me depending on the size of the tour, I actually ask for a month to advance the tour. In that month, depending on the tour, depending on my responsibility, because some tours you're just the tour manager, some tours you're having to advance production. So I may ask for 50% of my rate if it's a somewhat easy advance. I also may ask for my full rate for those 4 weeks and see if they give it to me. If they don't, I don't push too hard. But they don't always push. They don't always give in on that. But I ask for 4 weeks depending on how large the tour is. I can cut it down to 2 weeks. If you're working with a tight budget. Your artist just really you know what they're making. Well, in most cases you know what they're making. So if they just really don't have it, they don't have it. You don't have to be a jerk about it. You can really advance this tour in 2 weeks. The other thing is, again, I start advancing a month out, but some venues won't. They don't want to talk about it that early. They got other shows going on. They got other things to focus on. So they may not hit you until 2 weeks before. I'm still going to send my information out a month ahead of time because I want to get the money from the manager for those 4 weeks.
And follow up 48 hours later.
Right.
Cool. Thank you, Justin.
Looks like Camille had a question about apps. I saw Tobin chimed in on it. Do you guys specifically like to use any particular things to do your mapping? Like what's your go-to when you have to do that type of stuff? Calculations and all that. Go for it, Justin.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I use the regular GPS apps, Waze, Apple Maps, Google Maps. There is a tool out there called Truck Router that a lot of truck drivers use that gives you specifically the routes that the trucks or that buses would have to take. But the biggest thing is to have an estimate, but develop that relationship with your bus driver and with your truck drivers because they've taken most of these routes. And there's a lot of factors that come into play. If you're on a winter tour, snow comes into play. You might have to take a different route because there's more mountains or whatever the case may be. But like I said, for me, I generally use just the regular apps as a guesstimate, and then we can start to fine tune that as we start to talk to the bus driver to see what his experience, his or her, experiences have been in the past on those same routes.
Yeah, and like crossing state lines, sometimes the drivers know which routes to take, what day to go on certain entrances and stuff like that.
Especially in the Canada.
I'm notorious for adding
Southwest of states.
I always add
like
a lot
Texas.
of stuff. Some people get not that happy about it, but I like to. I'm kind of. I mean, it's a little old school, but I go on Google Maps and look up the mileage and then divide it by like 55, so that I can get like an actual estimate. Because I don't really know how fast they're assuming they're driving on Google Maps. I know the bus isn't going to be. I know it's not going to be driving usually more than 60 miles an hour or so. So I'll go and put it divided by 55 and see what it works to. And go off of that. And then just real quick, I wanted to throw this up. I usually create a mileage chart that will look something like this, just to have I keep it on the desk. I'll keep this on my desk and management's desk every day at the venue, just so that they can see exactly what's coming up for the whole tour. And you have the miles to the next city as well as the distance, so everyone knows what the drives are here. I remember when I was on tour at G-Eazy, like their managers had an office and this had to be laminated on their desk every single day. They wanted to see it. Same with the tour manager and production manager. It was like apparently like the holy grail, but I do then realize, why it would be so useful to have all this information there, your capacities right there. So that's something that's really helpful and good to communicate with your bus drivers and truck drivers as well. Also, where your overdrive situations are going to be and double driver situations as well.
Something like that too is important for your management to have, so that way they won't schedule an interview or something while you're on the bus and they want to have a sit down face to face kind of like thing with a radio station or something like that. So they'll know like you're on a long drive today, so maybe save it for the next day or whatever the case is.
Yep. Which is another good reason to put maybe sometimes the hours you guys are driving in Master Tour as well.
Yeah, like what time you expected to get to the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just another tip too, just because you just never know what situation you're going to be in, and we're talking about travel, but lead drivers. A lot of bus companies don't recognize that for some reason, but you should kind of take a survey of your drivers and see who's the most knowledgeable and just make them the lead driver. That way, you can communicate everything as far as drives to all the drivers, but if you have a point of contact with one driver, you can give that information to them. And if they're the most knowledgeable, they know kind of what Mel was saying in the comments, one of them might have a trucker's GPS, so they know the different heights and the height restrictions and weight, the scales and things like that. They know that stuff and they can communicate that down overnight while you're sleeping to the other drivers while you guys are out on the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cotton loves his truck driving stuff too. I know that. He's a truck driver himself, so.
Truck and production managers in the front of the house for an entire tour.
Lead truck driver is a real thing now. That's a good call. Anything else? Any other last minute questions this week, guys? I know we're coming in a lot shorter than the last.
Something I don't think we talked about, but you guys, I'll ask this to the panel so you guys can answer it for the attendees. What does the tour manager do during the show?
Who wants to take that one?
It depends on I think it depends on your artist still. I'm very hands-on. I'm side stage the whole show. I'm either side stage. I'm notorious. I always wear a red St. Louis Cardinals hat. So I always also walk the pit, and my artist knows to look for my hat. If there's a problem, I'm making eye contact. They like, yo, my ears are going in and out. So I'm always walking the pit or I'm side stage. I mentioned a couple weeks ago, my artist is, Ty Dolla $ign likes to crowd surf. If he jumps out in that crowd, I'm jumping out in that crowd with him, trying to get him back to the stage. As you go up, I think, I'm just very hands-on, but as you get really experienced stage managers and multiple security, you have a venue security person that's in the pit, you don't really have to worry about that kind of stuff. Times like that, I sit in the office and, make jokes. And I catch up on accounting and stuff like that. I may go settle my show during the show, because at that point, nobody else is coming in. The venue wants to do that. And I know after show, I need to be worried about after show food, bus calls, and things like that. So, just depends on how hands-on you need to be with your artist.
Yeah, I think what you touched on too is like the printing out the day sheet for the next day, communicating to the bus drivers for the next day, like doing your finances, settling the show, getting ready to handle merch when the show's over and the let out's happening, like stuff like that. Just always progressing to the next thing, because your job is not done as a tour manager. You're just progressing to the next thing. Just because they're on stage, the next thing is about to happen. So the show's still going for your schedule.
Yeah, good question, Levi.
And I think a lot of times, as you like, people who kind of grow with an artist from the beginning, those are the ones who end up like standing side stage the whole time, because in the beginning, you're just you and the artist and it's just skeleton crew, and they rely on you for everything. So you have that connection where you can just kind of like look at each other and you know what they need, and it's a comfort thing for them. So like Justin's always been saying, it's about definitely knowing your artist. And
we can all attest too, like when you're first starting out, you're side stage and everything, but as it grows, like now you got a stage manager in the band. Now it's time for them to do their job, but there's still parts in the set where your artist walks off stage and you want to have that tea or water, towels, change of clothes, whatever the case is. But that's like, that develops in time, but you're still doing stuff when you get off stage. You're either checking security, checking sound, front of house, lighting, whatever the case is.
Cool.
Hey, and also, if you get a chance, go enjoy the show. Every once in a while, go out to the front of house mix position. Yeah, you put this whole show together, so you can get it from the side of the stage. Go take it in.
Great point. Yeah.
Sometimes we forget to have a fun time.
Yeah. Cool. I don't see any other questions coming in, so we'll probably just wrap it here. We will be back next week. Cue the graduation music for the final session 6, where we're going to just go over tour manager traits, kind of, personality things, probably a bunch of stories that we'll compile together. We'd also love to hear stories from you guys next week too, about any, tours you guys have been on, funny stories or what have you. So, cool. We'll see y'all next week. Appreciate everybody.